Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey, in part brought to you by the First Federal Savings and Loan Association of Lima. Stand by for news.
Why are more and more investors in Allen County making First Federal of Lima the cornerstone of their investment programs? Why First Federal? Well, there are a lot of investments you can make today. Stocks, real estate, gold, or silver. But all of these are commodities, subject to the fluctuations of their individual markets. And when you buy them, you're betting that you're sharper than the professionals. But if you want to be absolutely sure you'll get your money back, and I mean all of it, when you want it, and if you want to earn a high return on that money, then think First. First Federal of Lima. First Federal can offer you safety, liquidity, convenience, and high earnings. No anxieties about falling stock prices. No worries about reduced dividends. If you take the time to look over all your options, you'll want to keep a major share of your money at First Federal Savings and Loan of Lima.
Well, again, it's the time of year for indoor chores. In fact, you know, the drier autumn days are the best of all times for indoor painting. There are paints on the market with names familiar to your grandfather. They were good paints for their time. Some may still be. But starting 16 years ago, the specialists in creating the new paints, the latex paints, the permanent pigment paints, the space-age paints, which are more durable than any heretofore, these up-to-now scientists in the formulation of the fine paints were brought together by True Value. And they were asked to focus all of their expertise on making the finest paints and stains and varnishes which can be made. And it is those which are now made in True Value's own paint factories. Our own paint factories mean, well, that means no middlemen markups. No middlemen markups means the True Value dealer in your neighborhood can deliver to you these paints, of which there are none better, at a better than anybody's price. That's the True Value tradition. That is True Value. This is Chicago. Chicago is embarrassed to learn that anything goes on the corner of Hazel Street and West Agatite. Anything goes. A motorist has only to hesitate to buy drugs through his car window. Prostitutes display themselves 10 at a time, offering whatever you want in a parked car or a doorway. Sometimes on a lively Friday night, the pushers and the hookers stand in the street in front of the cars, blocking traffic, pending deals. And they're patronized from cabs and jalopies and Cadillacs. In Chicago, at Hazel Street and West Agatite. That's 2 blocks that away from where Big Jim Thompson lives, the governor of Illinois. Consumer prices up an inch in September. Cost of living increased, but less than 0.5%. Gasoline mostly. Gasoline prices were up more than 1%. Fruit prices were higher because of citrus disease and weather factors. This year's inflation rate is now sufficient so that all on Social Security income will get more starting in January. You'll get about $15 a month more. For a couple, $26 a month more. And because of the way income taxes are indexed to the cost of living, a family of 4 will pay about $50 less taxes next year. Fashion designer Albert Nippon of Philadelphia indicted, accused of paying $200,000 in bribes to 2 IRS agents in an effort to escape $1.5 million in taxes. Britain's Prince Charles has long wanted to be a farmer. So he's bought 420 acres in central England to give it a try, sheep and grain. Communism still cannot produce food. The Soviet grain harvest is 65 million tons short, makes 6 bad harvests in a row. Chernyenko wants to try irrigating his country's arid south. Stateside politics on the campaign trail. Mondale in Mississippi Valley farm states says Reagan farm policies have been a disaster. President Reagan is quoting mostly Mondale's voting record in the Senate, where Mondale voted 16 times to increase taxes. By the way the president used to be a broadcaster, and today he told Ohio broadcasters that local stations, radio and television, that local stations are providing a needed alternative to the networks, particularly in their perspective on news. Amen. You hear about the fundraising breakfast in Las Vegas at the Holiday Inn on the Vegas Strip. Nevada Congressman Harry Reid had just finished speaking when a man entered through the ceiling. Through the ceiling. A hotel employee had jumped from the roof and plummeted 23 stories onto and through the ceiling of the meeting room. Vito D'Antonio was 30. Despondent, we're told, over the illness of his father. Louisiana, y'all still there? Louisiana has not been drenched by such a downpour in decades, 12 inches of rain in 24 hours, and in much of the state, more forecast today and tomorrow. Water snakes invaded hundreds of homes. In New Iberia, almost all homes are at least water damaged, and the cane fields are flat. Now, page 2. A watchdog in your house, even a small dog, may bark a warning if somebody tries your door or window. Uniden has automated the watchdog with something better called a bear cat. If you have a Uniden bear cat scanner radio at your bedside or anywhere in your house, you know what's going on in the whole neighborhood. You know what the weather is going to be before it gets to you, including violent weather. You know what fire calls, police calls, ambulance calls, even overhead aircraft emergencies in your community, and you know as soon as or before we professional news people do. If you have a Bearcat scanner radio scanning the emergency frequencies for you, keeping you advised. And in the interest of crime prevention, Bearcat scanner radios are offered to you between now and November 25 with a $50 price reduction. Our investment in your security. To learn the address of your nearest Bearcat scanner dealer, just dial toll-free 1-800-SCANNER. Just dial 1-800-SCANNER. Oh, this is closed circuit for Massapequa, New York, and thereabouts, Nassau County. Some mail may be tardy today on account of the mail pickup at the North Post Office was delayed by a boa constrictor in the mailbox. In Stockholm, Sweden, a child awakened to discover her mother had been murdered, and she, the child, was locked in the apartment. She made a rope of plastic bags from the kitchen, plastic bags tied together, and on that rope lowered herself from a window 16 feet to the street. The resourceful little girl is 4. On the medical front, hip joint repairs will last longer. Now they've learned how to take the bubbles out of the glue. And this is a medical surgical first. The reproductive organs of a San Francisco woman have been transplanted into her twin sister. The transplanted fallopian tube and ovary are viable and intact. The heretofore infertile sister should be able to have a baby within a year. Dr. Sherman Silber. In his profession, he's a master plumber. It was he who 9 years ago performed the first vasectomy reversal. Historically, crime families in the United States came from Sicily or had their roots there, but now it's Asia. Attorney General William French Smith says Asian gangs are now the major crime challenge for American lawmen. The so-called Japanese mafia, the Chinese triad societies, and Vietnamese gangs. They feed on heroin traffic, but they're expanding into loan sharking and extortion and gambling and vice. To whom it may concern, you visited the Johnson Space Center in Houston sometime in the past 3 years. Did you take away from there? Did you take home a certain picture? A purple and blue sketch of a satellite known as Project White Cloud? In your possession is a top secret Navy document. That satellite is so secret that NASA officials were not to use the designation Project White Cloud, even in telephone conversations. And any personnel having knowledge of that satellite were advised to deny such knowledge. So nobody but nobody should be allowed to see that picture of a super secret satellite for monitoring Soviet ship movements. Even though I know you bought that sketch as a souvenir in the Space Center gift shop for $1. Somebody goofed. Page 3.
Parrot Park, the courthouse, the McDonald House, landmarks in Allen County, Ohio. Something people can count on to remain constant in a complex, fast-changing world. And a lot of area residents have added First Federal Savings and Loan of Lima to that list of dependables. First Federal of Lima has a history of proven growth and stability. A history of protecting the savings of Allen County residents. Do you realize that not one single First Federal saver has ever lost one single penny in savings at First Federal of Lima? Not a single penny. Now that's quite a record. And that's why so many people count on First Federal for financial assistance. There's no safer way I know to invest your money. And it's profitable too. So if you're looking for a safe, dependable savings plan that can be designed to meet your specific needs, think First. First Federal Savings and Loan of Lima.
University of Minnesota research indicates that older managerial workers are more productive. About 1% per year more productive the older they get. Incidentally, the research also shows that regular exercise further increases per man-hour productivity. Jimmy Petrillo died last night in Chicago. The longtime head of the Musicians Union died of a stroke at 92. And baseball's Babe Pinelli died Monday in San Francisco at 89. Babe Pinelli was such an excellent umpire that even fans forgot he was also a player in the majors, and a good one. He hit better than 300 for a couple of years. What do you suppose this means? A bumper sticker that Dan Lynch sees in Denver. It says, Warp 6, a law we can live with. Warp 6, a law we can live with? Shop Talk in the primetime television ratings race. CBS was back on top last week. #1 program is now ABC's Dynasty. This traveling microphone will be in Los Angeles this weekend, speaking to a convention of health clubs people and checking up for you on what's new in physical fitness. Something old, something new in Paris, France. A new generation of Frenchmen rediscovered the tango. We've unfinished business in Charlotte, Tennessee, where a mother married her own son, and they lived as man and wife for 5 years. Now it is alleged she was married to another man at the time she married her son. So added to the charges against her is bigamy. And he, the son, is said to have known all along that she was his mother, so now he is charged with both incest and perjury. Attorneys for mother and son say that they hate to see their clients put through this, that there were no progeny, that at worst it was a victimless crime. Fewer divorces in Britain last year, but Britain still has one of the highest divorce rates in the world. But even there, marriages still outnumber divorces 2-1. In Foblesburg, Maryland, Myra and Walter Armacost are today beginning their 75th year together. Another woman shark bit off Vero Beach, Florida. 6 attacks in the Atlantic coast in 4 weeks. Sandra Fletcher has had to have nerves and tendons reattached in one arm and a 9-inch gash stitched shut. Reminder today from Heloise to potting soil and garden soil. You can add your old coffee grounds and egg shells. The Paducah, Kentucky News notes editorially that there are some screwball judges. And then it goes on to say that a certain Lexington, Kentucky judge released a man who had been convicted of sexually molesting young boys. The judge let him go because the judge said he would not be safe behind bars. So he is back out on the street where he is safe, and others are not. Page 4. There had been nothing new in window blinds since the Venetian blind until Levolor. And suddenly, as you recall, window treatment became colorful, exciting, contributing to instead of subtracting from the elegance of your home or your apartment inside and out. And Levolor established such a reputation for quality that despite many imitators since, experienced interior designers want nothing less than the real Levolor. But now Levolor is creating fashionable vertical blinds in fabrics as well. I mean fabrics which can match or complement your draperies or your other furnishings, and you can't name a color that we can't match. Fine woolens, textured tweeds, luxurious linens, elegant silks, all of them fire retardant. Nothing contributes to a clean contemporary look like vertical Levolor blinds. It's something less, remember, unless somewhere on the counterweight or on the bottom of the bottom slat it says L-E-V-O. L-O-R. It took fire aboard an Air Canada jetliner, a fire which cost 23 lives, but the FAA now has ordered all airliners to install fire-resistant seat covers within the next 3 years. And that's not all. An airliner with dummies aboard, a 720 jetliner, will be crashed on purpose in California next month. And then we'll know whether a new engine fuel additive really does prevent fire. And by the way, Lockheed has a contract now to design an unmanned, solar-powered flying wing which could remain aloft for a year without landing. To monitor crop production, we're told. One thing more, the United States Weather Bureau in remote areas relies on volunteers, 12,000 volunteers. In the treeless sandhills of Nebraska, the volunteer is Ruby Stuft, S-T-U-F-F-T. With her husband, she runs a ranch, but finds time each day to telephone Norfolk with a report on wind velocity, rainfall, snowfall, fog, whatever in her area. And Ruby has been doing it for 64 of her 84 years. One more. Josetta Gallagher of Philadelphia, at 84, has started a new job. Quote, taking care of senior citizens. Paul Harvey. Good day.
First Federal Savings and Loan Association of Lima has just presented Paul Harvey News and Comment. Hear Paul Harvey next at 6:30 this evening with the rest of the story on WIMA.